Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Clubhouse Picks, brought to you by Godzilla Wins. I'm your host, Jack Fredericks, editor of GodzillaWins.com, where you can get all of your sports picks and predictions on everything from the NBA to the UFC. Clubhouse Picks is your go-to podcast for PGA predictions, tournament preview, and salty picks for the veteran golf fan. It is a lovely Tuesday evening in Mississippi on May 31st. Oh, it's Wednesday evening, actually. Day late here. And we're here to give you our picks and predictions for the Memorial Tournament at Muirfeild Village. I'm here with my co-host, Nate Perry, the greatest handicapping caddy west of the Rockies. Welcome to the show, Nate, as always.
Oh, happy to be here, as always.
I'm happy you're here, too, because we have a lot of things that I would like to talk about this week. First, before we get into the Memorial Tournament, we want to talk a little bit about the Charles Schwab Challenge and Harris English's demise, someone who you had on your betting card. I just want to take a moment to reflect on the demise of one of my favorite golfers, Harris English, and how close he was to getting the elusive win in 2023. He's been playing so much better. Also, I'm sorry that you couldn't get the win because you're still winless since we started this podcast. Before we started this podcast, Nate, one of the reasons I thought we might need to, we should start a podcast, or could start a podcast, as you'd say down here in Mississippi, is because you would win a tournament every once in a while, picking golfers. And ever since we've started, you stink. So this was the closest you've gotten in months.
Yes.
So I just want you to reflect on how that experience has been for you and what happened to our favorite golfer, Harris English.
All right. Well, what happened with Harris is this. He played awesome for 2 days. He played okay on Saturday. I watched basically his whole round on Saturday. I tuned in on like ESPN Plus before the main coverage started. I watched like every shot he hit. And he played pretty good. And, he kind of faltered a little bit late. And I thought, I'm not worried about like Harry Hall and Adam Schenk in front of him. Like neither of them have won. Neither of them have really been in the position very often, except for Schenk, who lost in a playoff earlier this season, as well as last week at the Charles Schwab. And I just thought, like, this looks like Harris English's tournament to lose, barring Scotty Scheffler doing something horrible to me.
Which he almost did.
Which he almost did, yeah. I mean, he finished at 7, playoff was 9. I mean, he was right there. And Harris English, like, I can't explain, like, what happened in a way that like makes sense. It was just the wheels just came off. I mean, it was like, it was like the first few holes, it was like, okay, shaky, but the course is tough, everyone's a little bit shaky. And then it was just like, he just completely folded, and shoot 76. And, all he needs to do is shoot, even par and he's in a playoff, or even par and he wins, he's in a playoff if he just shoots like 1 over. And he played terrible. So I don't know. I mean, it just sucks. Because 8 wins, 9 if he just holds it together and doesn't shoot 76. I had to like go back and like look at the stats on Data Golf, like shout out Data Golf. And really it was just like ball striking. It was like he hit the ball pretty well. He actually still gained strokes like for the tournament pretty much across the board, except for putting where he like lost like 0.18, which is like, negligible. But I mean, he was just like a disaster on like, a stroke and a half, like off the tee, like a couple strokes, an approach. He putted like garbage, he lost like almost 2 strokes on the greens. It was just, everything just went wrong all at once. And yeah, I mean, it was frustrating to watch. Because that was the closest I've gotten, and I was totally locked in thinking, man, it's fun to have something to sweat. And it was not very fun on Sunday. It hurt a lot.
Yeah, it hurt for Harris too. He dropped 21 places in round 4 scoring average this week. So he went from 25th on tour, which is respectable. I mean, that's up there with some of the best, especially round 4, to 46th. So his scoring average now is almost 70. Not great. He's a guy who I worry about when it comes to closing with these tournaments. I didn't want to text you and say, oh, well, Harris, listen, he often plays well on Friday. Thursday and Friday, sometimes Saturday, but struggles on Sunday. Obviously, round 4 scoring average would just refute that. And I've actually talked about that with him before this year, that his round 4 scoring average has been okay, but he just fell apart. He couldn't close. And shout out to our guy, Emiliano Grillo, who I should have bet because I'd been on him for a couple weeks and actually talked about on the podcast last week when we went through some of the long shots. And instead of giving you one that I thought maybe could make it, it was like, okay, well, let's pick one. And Grillo was on that list because he's been playing really good golf. He's another one that, like Harris English or Wyndham Clark before him, some of these other guys who have grabbed a win in some of these events this year, not named the Masters of the PGA, some of the earlier ones, which was just Rahm and Scheffler. These guys have been playing well. I mean, Clark's been playing really well before his win. Harris English has got a bunch of top 10 and top 20s. So it does hurt.
I mean, yeah, it hurts because there's a 72-man field and Harris English shot worse than 69 of them.
Yeah.
Like, that's just like, I mean, it was a hard course, but like, my God, like, you know, like everyone in the top 55 scored better than him.
If he shoots even, he wins.
He wins. Even par wins. 1 over gets you in a playoff against guys that are pretty shaky. Like, Grillo was not looking awesome on 18 when he double bogeyed that. Shank has already lost 2 just sort of dramatic playoffs. Like, you could have won the playoff if you just keep it together, and he didn't.
No, he did not.
Whatever, you know.
Glad you're healing. Glad you're healing from that loss. It's a tough one, but not a lot of people had Harris English. I read more picks than almost anybody, probably, except for the guys who do this with me. And he wasn't really on anyone's betting card. It just, he was on, I think, 1 or 2 people that I follow, but that was not like a sexy pick. Wyndham Clark, when he won, was on a lot of people's betting card. Mm-hmm. Jason Day, when he won, on a lot of people's betting card. But Harris English has flown under the radar. People don't take him very seriously. He is a good golfer. He can win tournaments. It's just a matter of closing on Sunday, which he was not able to do. Maybe because Scotty was on his heels. Maybe he just got tired. Who knows? But yeah, not like he shot a 76. Like, not that he didn't just like shoot poorly. Like, he sucked, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, he's like 4 over. So
it was terrible.
I think, or 5 over. I think it was like a par 71. Might be a par.
It was 6 over. He shot 76 on a
par 70. Well, too bad for Harris. I don't like his chances this week either. So that might have been his one big finish, but we'll see. We want to talk a little live golf here, Nate, because there's a couple stories swirling around. Before we do that, though, we need to thank Birch Gold. Inflation has consequences, as you know, Nate. And as the Fed raises these interest rates to combat out of control government spending, talking a lot about that with the debt ceiling right now, long-term bonds have diminished in value, crippling banks. Depositors are holding their breath and investors are bailing on bank stocks. Diversification has never been more important. I'm just going to go off script a little bit here. You know, look, Birch Gold, what they do here is they make it easy for you to convert your IRA or 401k into precious metals, an IRA in precious metals. That's what they're all about. It's not that you need to just have, like, you still need to diversify. It's not that you just need to have all your money tied up in gold or silver or what have you. You just want to have an extra layer of protection as you have some of your retirement tied up or some of your savings tied up in the stock market, which can be very volatile, especially right now at these uncertain times. So what I want you to do, guys, is text Godzilla to 989-898. That's 989898. Text Godzilla to 989898 to get a free info kit on gold to help you convert your existing IRA or 401k that's tied to that volatile market into an IRA in physical precious metals. Text Godzilla to 989898 to claim your free info kit on gold. Today, we want to always thank Birch Gold. Another golden opportunity, Nate, is some of these guys on the Live Tour. A lot of Live news. I mean, we could really take this in a lot of directions, and we can spend some time on it if you want to. I want to talk about this idea that the PGA Tour has with the 4-man swap. I'll talk about that in a minute. We also have Rory's comments. We'll save that for, we've got, I think, a Rory segment here. So we'll save that for that segment, his comments on basically Ian Poulter, in my opinion. And then we we can also talk about this relegation thing that Liv is considering. One of the things that I like about Liv, as much as I don't like what they stand for, is that they're not afraid to shake things up. I mean, they're the new kid on the block, and they throw out a lot of interesting ideas all the time. So one of the ideas that they've been floating around that the PGA Tour has said possibly could be of interest is basically this idea of a 4-man swap. This would be the idea that the top 4 golfers in the PGA, so I don't know, Rory, Jon Rahm, Scotty, and Patrick Cantlay, I guess, Tony Finau, that those 4 golfers can play on live golf events and vice versa. So the Brooks Koepkas of the world or the Bryson DeChambeaus, whoever, I don't even know how they decide who's the 4th, Mito Pereira, whatever. Those guys can play on the PGA Tour. I imagine what they're trying to do is they're trying to play nice with the PGA. They're trying to give them back a little bit of their stardom. They may be also trying to do some other stuff. Nate, is this a good idea, or is this is it a stupid idea?
It's a stupid idea. It's a
Why?
stupid idea. Oh, okay. I mean, it's a stupid idea because if it happened right now, just live golf rankings top 4 with FedEx Cup rankings top 4. What the PGA Tour is doing is they're giving up Jon Rahm, Scotty Scheffler, Max Homa, and Tony Finau. And what they're returning is Taylor Gooch, Dustin Johnson, Brandon Grace, and Harold Varner III. That's the swap.
You're telling me you wouldn't want to see Harold Varner III tied for 43rd at the Valspar?
I mean, like, in what universe does that make sense? Like, I mean, we sort of brought it up because it was like the PGA Tour was like, oh, interesting proposal. But it's like, if you're just going off earnings on the Live Tour, like, which is what this is, like, Brooks isn't even in the top 4. So, like, you're not even getting Brooks back, and he just won the PGA. Like, I don't see what the utility would be for the PGA Tour to give up. I mean, I don't even know if it's arguable. They're the 3 most marketable players in Scheffler, Rahm, and Homa, at the very least, and Finau's also got a huge following. For Taylor Gooch and Dustin Johnson and Brandon Grace, like, that's like silly.
That is silly.
And I guess I don't see like why they would need to, because like those guys that are like good enough, like Brooks or whatever, DJ, like they're gonna play in majors anyways. So like, what, you just like want them to like play in like the Memorial? Like that, like that's, you're willing to trade out those 4 to have Taylor Gooch in the Memorial?
Yeah. Well, I guess though, Liv can always change the metric for what they consider the top 4 because of the fact that their format is so weird. I mean, they could just say our top 4 golfers are Bryson DeChambeau, Brooks Koepka, Phil Mickelson, and whatever. I mean, they could do it any way they want. They're not it's not a time-honored tradition of rankings here.
Right.
So
you
I
just
suppose
like sit down at the table and they're like, we'll give you Xander and Cantlay for like Brooks and Cam Smith.
Yeah, like
just like negotiate, just like a prisoner swap.
Yeah,
just like go to Patrick and be like, hey, do you feel like playing Live?
Yeah, I'd be okay with that if it was like Live in the PGA or in negotiations to let like I don't know, Jason
all
Day,
of their boring good players go.
Yeah,
like, just like round up like Morikawa, Cantlay, Xander. Just be like, you guys are like, you guys want to go play Live or whatever? We'll get like some like more exciting guys.
We'd like you to go play Live in Mexico City, and we'll take Brooks and Bryson and we'll pair them up for the John Deere, and then next week we'll act like it never happened. I mean, I think Liv would be open to pretty much anything in this conversation.
Yeah, I mean, Liv is pretty much open to anything at all times. They keep it loose.
Yeah, and what Liv is trying to do here, and this is kind of the dangers of just Liv in general, is sports wash. So obviously one of the reasons that people don't like Liv is because they feel like Saudi Arabia in general is trying to sports wash their image by starting a golf tour that is supposed to rival the PGA. But I think even doing something like this, it engages more so in just the sports washing that goes on within golf, where some of these guys maybe have a tarnished reputation now because they play with Liv. if you get them back on the PGA Tour, whoever that is, whether it's Taylor Gooch or Brooks Koepka, Phil Mickelson or whatever, maybe you can wash away some of that filth in their image. But like you say, they could do that in the majors anyway. And I'm just not sure that there's much value in this type of thing. I do think it's just, to me, it just seems like Liv sort of desperately trying to extend an olive branch to the PGA because they understand, I think now better than ever, that they can't just have a non-existent or a caustic relationship with the PGA Tour. They're going to have to work with them. I'm just not sure the PGA Tour feels that way.
I don't think they do either. I mean, it's it's annoying because, you know, this happens a lot, and this happens a lot just like in like news in general, right? Like sort of like news cycles. And sometimes I feel like Liv is sort of really aware of it, where like they just try and like float so many things, and they like drop weird news, and you know, they roll things out really slowly. So it's just sort of like this constant stream of like information coming out about Liv, you know, people dropping out of lawsuits. Now there's this relegation thing they're talking about, blah, blah, blah. It looks like Matt Wolff isn't signed to Brooks Koepka's team anymore. He's going to play somewhere else at a different team. They have all this, like, they like manufacture all this drama, right? And ultimately, like a lot of it feels like they just manufacture all of this news and drama that nobody really cares about, just so that people stop saying, like, the elephant in the room, which is this is still bankrolled by the Saudi sovereign wealth fund. There's $2 billion they threw at this. And the only reason they threw money at it wasn't so that they could get more rich. It wasn't so that like all these Saudi princes, you know, MBS or whatever, could get like make money off a $2 billion investment on worldwide golf. They did it because they wanted to draw attention away. And like for every, you know, on some level, like we're complicit because every time we talk about this, we're drawing attention away from like the fact that they're still doing the thing that was upsetting at the beginning, which is committing human rights violations, you know, whatever.
I think their strategy in some ways will work. I mean, I can't every time
I think it is working. That's the sort of disturbing part.
Yeah, I think every time I can't talk about Live Golf and then with the contextualization every single time that the Saudis commit horrible human rights violations. At some point, I just want to talk about the golfing going on over there. And I like Live Golf. I mean, I don't like the format, and I don't like that they only play for 3 days, and I don't really like a lot of the players, but I do sometimes watch it. And it's, I mean, I like Brooks Koepka, I think, enough to just watch. I mean, that's, to me, that's a big draw. He's an incredible talent. Dustin Johnson, some of those other guys, of course, that was their thing. So it is hard for us to talk about it, and I'm sure we are complicit, but at the same time, you know, you kind of have to, you got to move on, I guess. Although I don't know, maybe we don't, maybe we just ignore it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the answer is. I mean, especially now that Brooks has sort of completely changed the narrative after he won the PGA.
Yeah, and that's going to be a huge thing at the U.S. Open. I'm sorry,
yeah.
the U.S. Open.
The U.S. Open.
So another thing that Liv is doing that's sort of interesting, and I'll let you kind of explain this, is they're floating the idea of relegating some of their players like soccer leagues do, the Premier League, the Bundesliga, and others. Tell us a little bit about what they're proposing.
Yeah, so they're basically trying to sort of rotate in what looks to be essentially 20 or 25% of the field. So top 24 in their season-long points list, and the 14 team captains, they're exempt. So that's 38 guys. There's 48 that play in live events. That basically leaves like a 10%, like your 10 players that sort of can come in. And the way that sort of will work is basically everyone just plays in a 72-hole stroke play relegation tournament that'll be in late November after the last event. And it just feels weird. The 25th through 44th on the points list will be like an open zone where they effectively become free agents. They aren't like signed to like the quote unquote like teams that they play on, those 4-man teams or 5-man teams. So they can like re-sign, or if no teams want them or they want to opt out or whatever, if they aren't still under contract, then they can just leave. But like, I guess my issue with this, and this is like, again, it's just like more like bullshit. Like, it's just like stuff that Live creates, right? It's just like nonsense. It's like, this isn't like a thing. And like, also, they just keep like moving the goalposts on these guys. Like, what's Peter Uihlein going to do? Like, yeah, like he probably got some money to like sign with Live, but he didn't get like Bryson money or like Brooks money, but now like he can't play anywhere else. He's going to, if he gets dropped by Live, which seems like is a reasonable thing that could happen to someone like him, then he's basically like a guy without a home. Like he can't play on the DP World Tour, really. He can't play on PGA Tour anymore. Right now he's like 7th in points, so I guess like he might be safe. But I don't know. I just worry that some of these guys have sort of like sacrificed so much, and now they're just going to be screwed. Guys like Chase Koepka, he's made $1 million for this year. Probably most of that goes off of his bonus, So I just don't know. It feels like Liv sort of made a lot of promises to these guys about money, and now it's like, well, actually, if you're not under contract, now you're just screwed.
I'd like to see these contracts. I'm not a contract lawyer, but I thought the whole point was that they didn't have to worry about this. So
that was supposed to be it. It was supposed to be like guaranteed money forever.
Yeah, the pitch was no cuts. We give you a bunch of money and you play golf and you can win more money. And that's how it goes. You don't have to worry about not making a living because you're good enough where we're going to do that, blah, 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 because we're building a league. And now they're like, actually, Abraham Answer, you suck. So you don't get to play anymore after you lose this 72-hole relegation playoff, which, I mean, I know they're just trying to stoke interest. And then what is it? So like, doesn't that mean that there should be like guys who are playing to get on the Live Tour? Who's that?
Yeah,
like,
so they have criteria for that too. So in this sort of relegation tournament, the 72-hole relegation tournament, interesting that they decided to go with 72 holes for the relegation tournament, by the way.
Yeah. Really.
It's going to be the guys that were on the tour prior that got dropped off, that were lower than 45th on the points list. So basically those bottom 4 guys, and they'll play. Yeah, they basically play like the relegated guys. And then they'll play 2nd through 32nd in the international series rankings, winners of a fully sanctioned event on the DP World Tour, PGA Tour in the previous season. If you're within the top 200 in the official world golf rankings, if you're in the top 20 of the world amateur golf rankings, if you're on the last Ryder Cup or President's Cup team, and if you've won a major since 2018. And then if you've won like the USAM, British Am, Division 1 stroke play, blah, blah, Latin America, Pacific, amateur, whatever. So, it's trying to like, open up spots for clearly like sort of like younger players or up and coming players. I don't know how many more established guys. I don't know how many more guys they're going to get that have won a major in the last 5 years. But yeah, I mean, it's just strange. And then what happens if, and this could happen, you're the NCAA Division 1 winner, right? And you get invited to play in this Live promotional tournament. Does the PGA Tour then just say like, no?
Yeah.
And then you don't get in, and then you don't get in, and then you're really a guy without a home and you're just a college kid.
Yeah, I think they, knowing the PGA Tour, I think that's probably what they'll do, is they'll just be like, no. Like, we told you beforehand you can't engage in Live golf, so now that you did, you are disqualified.
So then this really low pressure existence that they've sort of been manufacturing suddenly becomes a 72-hole tournament for basically your playing life.
Yeah.
Unless you just want to spend the rest of your career in Japan. I
mean, that's the thing. I've said this from the beginning, and I think so have you in some ways. The whole idea was stupid. I mean, we can talk about sports washing all we want. The way they set up the league was dumb. And what they did was they asked a bunch of players how to run a sports league. And they said, oh, we don't want to play on Sundays and we don't like cuts and you should pay us a bunch of money and blah, blah, blah. And so they did that. Greg Norman or whoever, they changed the whole game. Okay, now you can wear shorts. It was a stupid idea for a league. And what they needed to do, what they should have done, and what they're going to end up doing if they can survive, is they're going to have to go back to a traditional model, and they're going to have to turn the dial 10 degrees to the right or left instead of 180 degrees. So instead of shotgun, they'll have to go back to like a traditional or something, because that's an established format that works. And nobody wants to see a completely different game. And nobody wants to see a game where there's no low stakes because Brooks Koepka already made $60 million on the tour from his bonus or whatever. And they just didn't think that's true. So we're going to continue to see this stuff change as they evolve. And they're either going to fold as a league in 5 years, or they're going to look a lot more like the PGA, I think. What they'll need. Yeah, I think I'm probably right on that. And I'm glad that you agree with me. They basically need to wake up. And Nate, the best way to wake up these days is with Beard Vet coffee. I drink Beard Vet coffee every morning. I get my Beard Vet, comes in the mail quickly. I throw it in the, I get the whole bean. I throw it in the coffee pot, which my coffee pot is kind of like a 2-in-1. You can grind it. And man, I'll tell you what, best coffee I've ever had. And that's because if you're tired of drinking coffee from mega corporations that don't give a rip about you, then you need to put down that cup of regret and grab yourself some Beard Vet coffee. This is darn good coffee from a company that is veteran founded, veteran focused, and beard operated. So look, the thing I love about Beard Vet is, and I have a beard as well, you don't just have to go to Beard Vet for your coffee needs. This is a veteran company, and they do two things well. They do beard care and they do coffee. This is a company by men, for men. And it's your one-stop shop for your beard tinctures and your coffee, which seems like at first a weird combination, but it works. So go to beardvet.com. That's beardvet.com. Buy some of their great tasting coffee, beardvet.com. Taste the freedom. Okay, Nate. We're going to move on from Live. I get tired of talking about them. I'm not going to put them in the schedule next week. They suck. Let's go to Chan Cam. So DP World Tour, maybe a little Corn Ferry. Chan Kim. Where's my man Chan Cam this week? Or Chan Kim?
Chan the man is in Raleigh, North Carolina at Raleigh Country Club. He's playing in a Corn Ferry event, looking to get right this week. We missed a cut last week. That was coming off the heels of a tie for 31st, which was pretty lackluster. And that was coming off the heels of another missed cut. So the game has not been very good since he made the trip to play the DP World Tour event in Japan. He's sort of struggled upon returning to sort of the Corn Ferry after really a sort of torrid start. Still in it, we're kind of mid 40s in terms of points list, top 20 get in, obviously. Need to start putting some results together though pretty soon. Otherwise, he's going to be sort of playing on the Corn Ferry Tour again next year, or trying his luck on the DP World Tour or whatever, or trying his luck in the Live relegation tournament. But yeah, so Corn Ferry Tour event this week, again, customarily listed at 40 to 50 to 1, depending on where you book your bets.
Did you bet him?
Nope. It's playing like garbage, man.
Yeah, well, yeah, like that matters to you. Would you follow him on the Live Tour?
Maybe, probably.
Yeah, got to, right?
I bet the hell out of him on Live, dude. You guys are washed.
Does he need to take a week off, go back home, get a little R&R?
I think so, but I mean, they just can't on Corn Ferry. It's just like the way that tour functions. It's like they build it into the schedule that they get R&R, but like guys don't take weeks off. They just they play 3 in a row and then they take like a week or two or whatever.
Yeah, well, they're all like broke too.
So yeah, I mean, they're like trying. Yeah, it's like guys are just signing up every week. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to keep an eye out for our favorite golfer on the DP World / Corn Ferry Tour, Chan Kim. Okay. We want to talk a little bit about Scotty Scheffler this week. I know you wanted to sort of spearhead this subject. I'll set you up here. So Scotty finishes, I think, T3 at the Charles Schwab. That is like another top 10 finish. It's all the guy does is win tournaments or finish in the top 10 or top 5. Just statistically, Nate, Scotty has just been, I think, unequivocally the best golfer in the world, even if John Rahm is right up there with him. Scotty's total strokes gained, he's first on the tour. Tee to green, he's first. Off the tee, he's first. Approach, he's second. Around the green, he's 11th. Total driving, he's second. Longest drives, he's third. I mean, I could go down the list. 114th in putting, which is actually up from last week when he was a little bit lower. We know that he struggles with the flat stick, but when you can do everything else, does it even matter? When is Scotty going to cool off?
I've been thinking about this a lot, and I don't know if I have a good answer. I mean, it seems like it should have happened already, in a lot of ways, because like, I mean, we're talking about a guy that's sort of been on more or less what's like an unprecedented run, like, short of like, some sort of prime Tiger stuff. I mean, he hasn't finished outside the top 12 since October of last year.
Wow.
Basically coming off a tie for second in the Tour Championship. He finished tied for 45th in the CJ Cup in South Carolina in late October, and he has not finished outside the top 12 since then. So that's just crazy. Like, that's just nuts. And there's 2 wins in there, and there's there's a couple second place finishes, third place. It's just nuts. And he's doing all of this while putting uncharacteristically poorly, which is like the sort of shocking thing. I mean, off the tee, he's been incredible. Approach numbers are like through the roof at times. Around the green, he's fine, but he's really been held back by the putter. Like it's scary to think about what Scotty would have done if he could have just putted a little bit better, like he did last season. What he could have done this year, and it's fortunate for everyone that the putter failed him. My gut is that it might not be for a while that he cools off. He might win a few more, if he just gets the putter right, because everything else has been so locked in for so long. It just doesn't seem like it's going to change. I mean, he hasn't lost strokes off the tee in 25 starts. He's lost strokes once on approach, and it was 0.23 in the last 25 starts. Like, so the ball striking numbers, there doesn't look like there's any thing that could happen. I mean, it should have happened already after 25 starts. So if the ball striking just stays, I think he might be here for a while longer, I mean, and have one of those runs where we're just like frustrated because it's like, oh, every week it's Scotty, sort of like John Rahm had earlier this year, or, Bryson had his little bit of run, or Brooks, a few years back when he was winning all the majors. This just feels like Scotty's time where everything's clicking, and I don't see, I don't know what element of his game would go right now while he's clicking like on this level. Like, it just seems like he has to get injured for him to stop being like this dominant.
Yeah, which we would hate to see.
Right.
If Scotty's able to gain strokes putting, I think if we just go down the list of some of these tournaments that he lost, I think he wins the Charles Schwab last week, easy. I think he wins the PGA. I think he wins the AT&T. I think he wins the API, Arnold Palmer. I think he definitely wins the Hero World Challenge, and possibly the Century, although I think Rahm won the Century. So, maybe not. He's already got 2 wins this tour. So, I mean, you're talking like maybe he figures out the flat stick and he's got 6 wins like this year, 5 wins.
Right.
He's got 11 top 10s this season, second in the FedEx Cup standings. OWGR's first. I mean, I don't think he's going to cool off for years, to be honest with you. I think that sometimes Rahm's headspace gets a little weird and he just like misses a cut and he just doesn't play to his potential. He gets upset, whatever, or he can't figure anything out, just has a shitty Thursday. I just don't see that happening with Scotty. He's so rock solid mentally. And it doesn't matter the grass. It doesn't matter the course. He's so good in every aspect that he doesn't have to be put in a good situation. And the major is coming. He's going to win one this year. So it's either going to be, to me, the US Open or the Open. And we'll see. I think he probably gets 2 or 3 more wins as well. Every week. I mean, if you don't care about the price, you should be betting him every week. And I don't think that about Rahm or Rory or Finau or whatever. I mean, but if you can stomach the plus 650 or plus 400 or right, the Tiger line plus 10 to 1, like just bet it, because the bet is so much better. Or just bet him top 10 every freaking week and just, win your minus 140. Just like you talked about that last week. And I almost took that bet where it's like, it's just easy money. It was another top 10. It was like minus 140. I mean, that's like That's like, oh, maybe the Nuggets win the first game and you just don't want to lay the points. That's all that is. That's how easy that money feels right now. So I can't recommend that you don't do that if you don't, unless you don't want to lay minus 140.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's just nuts. It's just nuts. Like looking at his stats is just crazy.
I think we're witnessing an era that I don't think is going to be cut short like Brooks or Bryson or I think it's more like Jason Day, I guess, before the injuries of like, wow, this guy is the greatest golfer in the world by like a mile. It's not Tiger, but it's a weird middle place where it almost is, and it could be
pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think it's going to cool off, and I think everybody should keep betting him at those top 10s if you want to do those props. Another golfer who we'd love to cheer for, but has been struggling this year is Rory McIlroy. Since the PGA, though, a lot of chatter that Rory might be back. PGA was a good tournament for him. You look a little suspicious. What do you think?
I think probably, yeah. I think he probably is back. I mean, it wasn't like we make it sound like he was just like a total disaster, for like a really long period of time. But it was like basically like 2 tournaments. Like he finished like 3rd at the match play, and then he misses the cut at the Masters. Everyone's like, "Oh, the sky is falling." But that's sort of a fraught tournament for Rory, anyways. There's kind of a lot going on in his headspace in the Masters because that's basically his final leg to complete the career Grand Slam and join, a very select few people who've done that. But I mean, the PGA, like, yeah, he looked solid. I mean, he gained strokes in all 4 major categories. The putter cooperated with him for a change. The short game was a lot better than it was at Augusta. So I mean, yeah, he looks back. I mean, I think that he was probably right. I think that he probably just like wasn't feeling very well. I think that the stress of all this had gotten to him. He'd sort of indicated previously that he sort of wanted to talk a little bit less about live, just because he felt like it was sort of like draining him emotionally. But then all he does on his press conference yesterday is like say that like all the European live guys can like basically go pound sand, and that he doesn't want him on the Ryder Cup team. He's mad at him.
What'd you think of that?
I mean, I think that it's sour grapes. I mean, it's just, I mean, that's like Rory, like not saying like this is like an institutional change that needs to happen. It's basically Rory just saying like, fuck those guys. Like, I don't like them. You know what I mean? Like that's what it is. Like he's just pissed at like Poulter and Sergio and guys that were Ryder Cup stalwarts that, like pretty much knew like from the get-go, like what was going to happen. And now they're like, oh, actually, I do want to play or whatever, or they're, sort of sour grapes. I think he just felt like, those are guys that he kind of came up with, guys that he sort of idolized, as he was sort of coming up, because he's, younger than them, but he's been at this for a long time. And I think that he just sees them and thinks like, it's bullshit. Like you don't get to like, change your tune now just because Brooks won a major. Like Brooks knew what he was getting into from the jump. He didn't care. And he also like won a major. Like Sergio and Poulter suck on live. So
okay, so yeah, let's read. I'll read to you Rory's comments because it's not just like screw those guys, but in some ways it is. He says, "I certainly think Brooks deserves to be on the United States team. I think with how he's played, I mean, he's second in the U.S. standings, having only played 2 counting events. That's pretty good. I don't know if there's anyone else on the live roster that would make the team on merit and how they're playing, but Brooks is definitely a guy that I think deserves to be in the U.S. team. But I have different feelings about the European team and the other side and sort of how that has all transpired. And yeah, I don't think any of those guys should be a part of the European team." So basically what he's saying is Ian Poulter sucks at golf and I don't want him on the team. Same thing with Serge. And he's kind of right. I mean, those guys are past their prime. They aren't playing well. I mean, I don't know. Like I'm telling you, Mito, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mito's like Italian.
No, Mito's Argentinian. He's President's Cup guy.
Yeah. Well, even so.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if you're looking for like Euro guys on the list, like it's like Sergio's the best on the list, and he's 13th on the rankings, and he's got
Oh God.
2 top 10s this season in 7 events in a 48-person field. So
There's
like,
too many.
yeah,
Keep going.
there's like no players that like you look at that are like obvious like Euro guys. I mean, after that, you got to go like pretty low because like Usay's in South African, or Mr. South African. After that, you're looking at like Paul Casey, who's 27th on the list. So I mean, like personality differences aside, which that's kind of how it felt to me, was kind of like, like screw those guys, like, they were kind of rubbing our face in it and being, jerks. Poulter kind of rubbed a lot of people up the wrong way when he sort of left. But I mean, yeah, like the other argument is like that he could make is like they're just not playing very well. Like, and they just don't deserve it.
I mean, they're definitely not playing as well as John Rahm, Rory McIlroy, Victor Hovland, Matt Fitzpatrick, and I mean, just right there, those are Europeans who are in the top 10 in the OWGR, and Tyrrell, who's had a good year as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I think even Shane Lowry, I'd probably rather see on that team.
Oh my God.
Than those guys. So I think he's got a point, but he never misses an opportunity to put his middle finger up at Liv, and he's definitely been disappointed at these European guys. So I do think that he's back, and I'm hoping that he can put in a good performance here this week, but we'll see. He's just, I don't know, because he's the spokesman for the PGA Tour now. It's like, I don't know. He's just in a different part of his career, and I don't think he's always focused on golf, which is not good for him because that's all he really wants to do is just play golf and not talk to anybody.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same burden that like Tiger had sort of in the prime of his career. It's just like, there's just so many more responsibilities that come with sort of taking on that mantle as the sort of like, best active player,
Dude's been on he's been on the tour since 2010.
Yeah.
Like he's just the spokesperson for the game now. And he's good. He's the elder statesman. He's going to be that way. He's like 36, I think, 34 or something like that. So he's going to be that way for a while. His career's not ending, and he's just going to have to deal with it. And he might not win as many tournaments, but we need to know what he thinks about this stuff because he's the most important golfer. He just is. He might not be the best, but he's the most important.
Oh, 100%.
We're going to talk a little bit about Patrick Cantlay and his dominance here at Muirfeild, which, I don't know. Patrick Cantlay's so boring. But before we do that, I want to thank Ignite 45 and all that they do for Clubhouse Picks and Godzilla Wins. If you're a small business owner struggling to generate leads and revenue, then this message is absolutely for you. In today's economy, a winning digital strategy is an absolute must. Without it, your business could fall behind and lose out. Many business owners struggle with outdated websites and no real presence on Google when people are searching for their services. But don't be discouraged because Ignite 45 can fix that. Listen, we run a website, Godzilla Wins. We know how difficult it is to rank with the SEO search engine stuff. It's the social media stuff is its own ball game and it's very difficult, but this SEO stuff is really, really difficult. And it pays to have a professional, someone like Ignacio, who has helped many, many companies from HVAC to electricians, construction, start to rank better on SEO so that, if you need HVAC work done and a potential customer Googles, HVAC guys in my area, you pop up. Ignacio can do that because you don't often go to Twitter to find a roofer, but you do put it in Google. So you need that SEO. What I want y'all to do is go to www.ignite45.com/Godzilla. That's www.ignite45.com/Godzilla and use the promo code Godzilla to save $100 on your digital needs. You can also call 720-740-1776. That's 720-740-1776. If you own a company and you are interested in boosting your SEO, you can't do any better than Ignacio at Ignite 45. Please give them a call today. Okay. So one more topic here, then we'll get to our picks. I put off the picks because you just suck. So I just want to talk about some other stuff. And then, people can always read your picks later, I guess. I've got some picks too. Mine don't suck. I absolutely crushed it, by the way. Last week, I had a bunch of guys in the top 20, a bunch of guys in the top 10. I won some props. So listen, stick with me. and you'll be good. Stick with Nate and you'll watch Harris English shoot a 76 and be furious. Patrick Cantlay. Nate, Patrick Cantlay.
Yeah.
Why is Patrick Cantlay like a god at Muirfeild?
He's a god at Muirfeild for a couple of reasons that I can sort of articulate pretty easily. He's really good driver of the golf ball. He's not like necessarily like a bomber, but like he hits it plenty far enough, and he's really accurate. He gains a lot of strokes off the tee. Muirfeild is a place that has, relatively like wide-ish fairways, and Rory said today earlier that he doesn't even really need to hit that many drivers here, like maybe 4 or 5. It just even though it looks like a long course, it's just like not really practical for him. But Cantlay drives it straight enough to be able to hit more drivers and be able to take advantage of that, just by virtue of that. So that's part of it. The second thing is that Cantlay is sort of like a bent grass putting god.
Yes.
So that's part of it. And part of it is and then the other thing is one of those wins probably would have been a second place finish had Jon Rahm not tested positive for COVID-19 in 2021 while sitting on a 6-shot 54-hole lead. So
yeah,
Rahm just sort of
Rahm
picked up the scraps there.
Yeah, Rahm gets COVID like every 20 minutes. So
yeah,
you can always count on a Rahm scratch when he's got COVID again.
So, barring COVID, it's one win and 3 top 5 finishes in the last 5 years. With Rahm, then it's 2 wins, 2 top 5s, 2 other top 5s in the last 5 years, which is ridiculous. So I don't know. Clearly he likes it here. He's playing well. I mean, it makes sense that people want to bet him. Like I don't hate it even at 10-1, really.
Yeah, obviously he likes it here. He's playing fine. I don't think he's like playing out of this. He just hasn't won a tournament, and I'm just not as interested in him as some of these other guys who are 10-1 or in that range, the 20-1 range, who have won a tournament. And I am cautioning everybody this week because we just lived through this with KH Lee at what was it, AT&T or one of those?
Byron Nelson, yeah.
But yeah, AT&T, where we're like, oh, KH Lee, dominant, dominating force. How can you miss with KH Lee here? And then he sucked. So, and look, Cantlay is playing much better than KH Lee. That's not a good comparison in that way. He is a bent grass putting god. Yes, I get it. But I don't like playing those trends. I hate playing those trends because they never seem to work. And when they do, they only seem to work in hindsight. We're like, well, yeah, I mean, of course, like he won it here 4 years ago or whatever, or he plays well here all the time. And then you don't get good odds. For a guy who hasn't won on tour, I'm not taking 10-1. I'm sorry. I'm just not doing it. I got other guys that I can get at a little bit of a shorter price who win all the time. And then I got to take a gamble on Cantlay because he was good here 2 years ago. So I don't see it, but he is dominant here. And the prop that I like, Nate, for him is not first round leader. Let me pull up the prop that I like, and you can tell us a little bit more about why you love Cantlay. Is he your driver for this
No.
week? No.
I think I just got scared off him because it seems like the whole world's on Cantlay. Because they're just sort of like, and I'm trying not to do that thing we did with KH Lee where it's like, Cantlay, Muirfield Village God.
Yeah, but then sometimes we try to get, like, we think we're smarter than everybody else and we look like idiots when we don't bet them.
Yeah.
So we do that all the time, I think.
It's true.
It's hard to outsmart the field in golf. There's a lot of guys who handicap like constantly.
Yeah, they're really good at it.
Yeah. Unlike you.
It's true.
Trying to find the prop. I was like, oh, this is the Cantlay prop, baby. But I don't think I have it. So whatever. I'll think about it later. I never wrote it down. It was something stupid and it was like sick. It was like a matchup or something. I'll think about it later. Anyway, I don't like Cantlay. Doesn't seem like you do either.
Really.
So he is dominant here, though. So
Yeah,
we'll see.
He
I just think
finishes
he's
in the
boring.
top 5 all the time. Plus 240 for a top 5 feels like a better bet to me than 10-1 to win. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think there's no way he doesn't finish in at least the top 10. If he doesn't finish in the top 5, it's because he had a
Yeah, and I mean, he's still
Saturday.
plus money just to finish in the top 10 at plus 115. I think I'd rather do something like that than like. There's just so many good guys that can win. It just does feel like a short price, and
Yeah,
not that
absolutely.
far off from Scotty and Rom.
Well, he is dominant. He is on everybody's card. He's not on
Mhm.
mine because we're too smart for that, which means he'll probably win by 7 strokes. Okay. With that said, what I need to do now, we need to go to our what's in our bag. These are our picks for the week. We really have been trying to get a lot more variety in here before we run through our picks. But Nate, let's do them, pretty quickly here. We'll start with our driver as always. This is our favorite, our heavy hitter. We can do driver, iron, and wedge pretty quickly. Then I'll tell everybody about target trading. Then we'll do the other two. Who's your driver, if not Patrick Cantlay?
I think John Rahm. I think that plus 750 feels like for John Rahm lately, that feels like a pretty decent price. He's not the favorite. Scotty's the favorite at plus 650. Cantlay's right behind him at plus 1,000. I like Rahm here. It just feels kind of like the forgotten man. I feel like everyone's sort of hyping up, will Scotty Scheffler ever cool down? Will Cantlay ever, not, be awesome at Muirfeild Village? And Rahm's sort of like, I've seen very little narrative on Rahm and sort of, reading social media, even though he's a one-time winner here and should be a two-time winner here. It's clear he likes this course. He had one bad tournament at the PGA where he finished like 50th and everyone was like thinking that the sky was falling, but metrically he didn't look that bad. I think he's probably going to be fine this week.
The recency bias in golf touting is so hard to escape.
Yeah.
Like I saw some like Emiliano Grillo props and picks. I'm thinking, are you kidding me? Look, I love Emiliano Grillo. He's been playing great. He's not going to come out and win an elevated event after just winning a playoff. He's just not. He's going to like miss the cut or something. It's just what happens. And we do this all the time in golf where it's like, oh my God, that guy's playing. He's hot. And it's like, yeah, but like, does this course fit his game at all? No, it doesn't. You didn't look it up. You just know they won 2 weeks ago. All right, fine. Moving on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you're right about that. He had terrible PGA performance for him anyway and struggled. My driver here, we talked about him, so I'm going to go quickly, is Scotty. I don't think you can ignore, I don't care, plus 650. You can't ignore the dominance. And these are the things I'm kind of looking for, Nate, this week, because we didn't really talk about the course that much. I know Rory says you don't need your drivers, but it would be nice if you can hit it long and hit it straight. That's going to pick you up some strokes. So I like fairway percentage or what they call driving accuracy percentage. Greens and regulation percentage I'm really interested in this week because you got to get on the green. The rough is really thick. And then there's scrambling from the rough, which is a weird stat that I've been kind of looking at. Bogey avoidance. I think this is a hard course. So I want guys who can par, basically. This isn't a course where you're going to have, minus 30 win or 30 under par. And then strokes gained approach, because I don't know. I feel like that's the most indicative stat almost ever for anybody winning on tour. So those are my stats. And I mean, that's Scotty, like always, first in greens and regulation, first in bogey avoidance, 8th in scrambling from the rough, 22nd in driving accuracy, 2nd in strokes gained approach, 3rd place finish here in 2021, tied for 2nd at the PGA, which is not a great comp. But the rough was long. So there's that.
Bent grass greens.
And bent grass greens. It's not a horrible comp. Inishbrook, which is the Valspar, is a good comp for this course. So if you like some guys, you may want to see how they did if they play at the Valspar this year. That could be a good indicator. So I like Scotty plus 650, and that's kind of that. I don't like the other guys. I don't care about Cantlay. Cantlay would be 18-1 if he didn't win this twice. So I'd rather get that 18-1. Iron. So the iron, Nate, that's our guy who old reliable, won either this year or in past years, usually in the 20 to 40 range, but could be more. Who's your iron?
My iron is Hideki. Hideki
Oh,
Matsuyama.
he's been everywhere too.
I know.
Go ahead.
But I mean, I think he's there for good reason. I mean, the numbers are just good. He's been playing pretty well. He was like kind of injured, like right around the match play. So if you throw that out, he's like finished in the top 30 in his last 5 events. He putts a lot better on bent than he does on any other surface. Which isn't to say he like putts well on it, but he like is at least like not like a complete liability. So I mean, like I think he makes sense. I mean, he's just been playing well. Iron game is great. His around the green game has been like phenomenal. He's 4th in bogey avoidance in his last 36 rounds. So the things that sort of typically would get Hideki in trouble, like some sort of birdie fest reaction needs to have a hot putter, don't hurt him as much here. So I like Hideki. That price, yeah, why not?
What's his price?
35 to 1.
Yeah. He just hasn't been playing like awesome this year. At least what we consider awesome. And at this point in the season, I kind of want guys who are lurking and are kind of primed for the win. But
Yeah.
bent grass this year, he's lost strokes this year and he's played 12 rounds. So he struggled this year on bent grass. But not that much. I mean, minus 0.5. Like he's not losing.
That's not bad for him.
Yeah, right. It's really not. So he puts a little better on bent grass. And he's played 12 rounds on bent grass, which is hasn't been a ton of tournaments on bent this year. So
right.
It's important that these guys have been playing on bent grass if you're gonna use that stat. Don't look at that stuff and then see that they've only golfed 4 rounds and be like, oh well, they gained like 900 strokes. It's like, yeah, it was like 1 tournament. All right. Yeah, Hideki, not too bad. I have another one that everybody's all over. You want to guess who it is? I pick him a lot.
Shane Lowry.
No.
Oh.
Everybody is all over Shane this week.
They are.
Sugar Shane. I don't know. No, I don't ever pick Shane. Unless it's windy. I would pick Shane if we were playing like on a boat.
Let me see. I don't know.
I'll give you a hint. And he's somewhere from 20 to 30.
20 to 30. Not Tyrrell Hatton.
No.
All right. Who is it?
Jason Day.
Really? Okay. He's like an Ohio guy now.
Yeah, he is. So I read a thing that he never plays here, but it's like one of the course that he's like closest to.
Yeah, he's like a member, but he's just like never really,
Yeah. Again, the stats that I'm looking at, I really like. Greens and regulation 17th. Driving accuracy is 55th, but he's not necessarily like, he's probably a guy who might hit some irons off the tee here. He's not someone who's going to rely on that for his game.
He's long
scrambling
enough,
yeah, he is. Scrambling from the fringe, he's first, but I don't know. That's a weird stat. A lot of people are first in scrambling from the fringe. Scrambling from the rough, he's 20th. So I kind of like that. Bogey avoidance, he's second. Approach 22nd. Always a good ball striker. And I really think those stats don't demonstrate what he's done the last month or two with the ball striking after his win at the AT&T. Now he did get cut at the PGA, but that was right off the heels of the Byron Nelson. And I mean, that's what happens. These guys win a tournament. It's really hard to bounce back and win another one, win 2 in a row. Tied for 31st in 2021 here, tied for 4th in 2020. I don't think he played the Valspar earlier this year. Although I was trying to find that because I kind of have a vague memory of, yeah. So we'll see.
And it makes
25
sense.
25 to 1.
He won the Byron Nelson coming off a miscut. So missed a cut of the PGA. Maybe he wins another one.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think he's just back, I guess. More so maybe than Rory. And I think there's no reason for him not to win another one at an elevated event in Ohio.
Yeah, I mean, and it was pretty clear. Like, you could just throw out the PGA. Like, he didn't even play the course. Like, he just showed up on like Wednesday and was like, "Where's the first tee? What's the course record?" Like, he just, slammed his trunk, grabbed his clubs, and walked out there. So, like, that's not really like fair. Like, he was pretty much mailing in from the beginning.
Yeah, right. I mean, he knew he wasn't going to win. And he's old enough where it's going to be hard for him to perform week in and week out. But he is, I think, a good bet at 25 to 1. Although, man, oh man, he was like 50 to 1 earlier this year. So he was, he's won. Sahith Theegala is now sneaking up. He's like 50 to 1 this week. So some of these guys who we've been like, oh my God, it's 75 to 1. Are you fucking kidding me? Like all of a sudden their price is better.
Yeah, the fallow line has drifted up to 35 to 1 this week.
I know. Tricky Ricky. Another like sort of mediocre tournament last week, and yet everybody's still on him. Everybody thinks he's going to pop and win one. The stats show it, but not the performance. So let's go to your wedge then. This is a guy who doesn't win, or maybe he's won once or twice, but you can't stop. And I got a good one for you, but you go ahead. I got a great one. This is actually my favorite.
I like Siwoo this week. I mean, Siwoo's won before.
Yeah, sure.
Longer odds than some of the guys that we talked about. I mean, he's just been playing pretty well. And like the thing about like Siwoo is like it's really hard to tell like where he plays well. Like he's won everything. Like he's won at all sorts of weird places. He lost a playoff of the RBC Heritage years back. Like that looks like a course that would be good for him. Tough driving, need good iron play. But then it's like he won like a Birdie Fest, at the Amex one year. He won the Sony Open earlier this year, which is like a totally different type of course. He won the Players. He just wins at weird places. His game looks like it should fit there. And he's played like, he's finished in the top 20 like 3 consecutive times. So like, it's clear he likes Muirfeild Village. But he's also just like maddening to bet on because he either like has it or he's just like throwing clubs and like freaking out there. Like he's another guy that just like you're like what's going on with you like at home this week?
He's boomer bust. He's like the Reno economy of gambling. Like if things are going well, you're like, let's ride this wave forever. This guy's never gonna lose.
And people are betting the shit out of him this week. I mean, he opened like, I bet him at like 65 to 1. Now he's 50 to 1. So, I mean, he's not like, sneaking past people.
No, he's not. And nor should he really. He's playing fine for an elevated event. I think it might be a little bit of a stretch, but when we get down to some of these guys, it kind of is.
Yeah, so but I mean, he won a Players. Like, it's not like he doesn't know how to win a big one.
No, yeah, he could win a big one. I just think the way he's playing right now, I don't love it. I'm not saying he can't win a big tournament. He definitely can. But we'll see. I've got another Kim for you. So we're going Kim squared here. I like my man Tom Kim. 55 to 1. Listen, 55 to 1, top 10 finish at plus 450, which is good for him. I think that those are some pretty good odds, but I don't know. He's not like mailing in top 10s all the time. The reason I like him is this is absolutely his course. Greens and regulations, he's 8th. Driving accuracy, he's 5th. Scrambling, he's 13th. Bogey avoidance, he's 5th. Approach, he's 12th. He's just an elite ball striker who knows how to save par and is good enough on bent grass, I believe, although I'll have to double check that. I think it's going to happen for him at some point. And I know you do too. You're on him all the time.
Yeah.
Cut at the PGA, tied for 34th at the AT&T, tied for 23rd at the Wells Fargo, tied for 16th at the Masters. So I don't know, like a top 20 is probably really feasible for him. You're not going to get great odds, but I just feel like at 55 to 1, man, I mean, I'm telling you, the statistics don't lie. At some point, these guys just put it together, and I think he's probably right there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the argument would be like this course may be a little bit long for him. But I mean, yeah, it kind of looks on the surface like it could be a fine course for him. I mean, in terms of like iron play, especially.
I think he could pick up those strokes in the iron play. I know the fairways are wide here, but the rough is punishing. And these guys like Rory, I mean, look, Rory can go in and be like, the fairways are wide, but like Rory sees just an ocean of fairway whenever he looks out there. Not everybody does. A lot of these guys are going to be chopping in the rough, and that rough is thick, just like the PGA. And we saw that become an issue. I mean, we saw guys strike the ball out of the rough like I strike the ball. I mean, it's just like, oh, that went 5 feet. Great.
Yeah. And this rough will be 4 inches in parts. So, I mean, it will be penal for sure once you get out
there. I think so. And I think he's going to be able to avoid it and then pick up some strokes. with that ball striking ability. So that's kind of why I like the top 10. To me, I'm very confident that he's going to end up in the top 10 here. So I like the plus 450 a lot for Tom Cam. And he's just fun to watch. Just like, who doesn't want to root for my guy, Tom Cam?
It's true.
I also missed a prop, I think, because right now I'm into the international props. And I think I had Jason Day, top Australian.
Okay.
It was like plus 150 or something. It wasn't great. 125, something like that. And to be honest with you, there's some other Australians who are playing really well. I mean, like Cam Davis was like plus 450, which isn't a bad bet, but I like him as the top Australian there. So I lost the top Asian prop last week. Siwoo did not pull it together for me.
Yeah. I mean, Tom Kim's plus 300 is South Korean. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Who's the other? Who's the favorite?
Sung Jae.
Sung
Jae's plus 175, then Siwoo's 275.
Yeah, Sung Jae.
And KJ Choi, for some reason, is playing in this event, and he's 65 to 1 if you want to bet on him as top South Korean in a 7-course race.
65 to 1?
Yeah. I'm not really sure why he's taking a week off like the Champions Tour to come here, but yeah, he is.
I don't know. Just on principle, that's a good bet. You're getting 65 to 1 on a 7-person field. I mean, like that just based on principle and math, that's a good bet.
I mean, some of these get like pretty weird. It's like you can get like the top Irish guy, and it's just 3 people. It's just 3 players.
Yeah.
It's just Rory, Shane Lowry, and Seamus Power.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I like the international props. It gets dark real quick because you can go like, and this is all on DraftKings, of course. Go to DraftKings, sign up using the promo code Godzilla, and get $150 in free play. But yeah, man, I mean, Scandinavia, like, you kidding me? Like, you're telling me Hojgaard can't? What if Hovland just like gets injured, just misses the cut,
right?
Like, gets sick and pukes in a bush, has to withdraw. Boom, Hojgaard 4 to 1. I mean, my favorite is rest of the world.
The rest of the world, I was just looking at that because it's just like international players. And they just sort of like throw them all together. It's like, if you're not American or European, we'll just put you in here.
Yeah, it's because they have all these, and then they just go, rest of the world. Just like I don't know, like just, it's a very imperial.
It's like the President's Cup team, basically.
Yeah, right. And
it's like,
if you've got some belief in Dylan Fratelli, you could win a lot of money.
Yeah, and it's like, it's also guys like I forget are Canadian, like Mackenzie Hughes and like Taylor Pendrith and Corey Connors. Where I'm like, oh yeah, they are Canadian. Yeah. So they get thrown.
Also, like, you get 6 to 1 on Jason Day to just beat these guys, which is like not bad. Or like,
good.
or like Adam Scott at 10 to 1, which is, I mean, he's been kind of a sexy pick this week too.
He has. Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. I love those props. But it's definitely gambling. And something that's not gambling, Nate, is targettrading.co. With all the fear out there about the economy and personal finances, many people are turning to trading the markets to help support themselves and their families. Trading is risky. There's no doubt about that. It's something that shouldn't be entered into lightly. All the more reason to get proper training and education. Target Trading Academy is considered the #1 futures trading education company in the industry over the last 15 years. The team has developed successful, respectable, repeatable trading strategies, and Target Trading Academy delivers these trading methods to you in a highly structured and effective learning environment. What I need you to do is go to targettradingacademy.com. That's targettradingacademy.com. Sign up for a free virtual campus tour. And then go to targettrading.co. That's targettrading.co. Or call 888-203-3731. That's 888-203-3731. Start to secure your future today. All right, Nate, going a little long here, as always on the pod, because we love golf so much. Very quickly, let's get the last ones in. I don't have a long shot, although I could list off more and like just randomly hit one like I did last week. But let's go with our bet and regret. I've got one that is definitely recency bias. And then we can go from there. You want to go? Or you want me to go?
Yeah, I'll go. I mean, mine is like, I just drank the Kool-Aid. Shane Lowry. It was stupid, and I did it. And he was 40 to 1 and he's drifted to 55 to 1. So a horrible value from me. I saw him everywhere. It was like, seems reasonable, these arguments. The ball striking numbers have been off the charts. But like the idea that he can put together a putting round right now. I mean, he putted basically like field average at the PGA, which is good. He tends to play better on tough courses, sure, argument. But like at the end of the day, there's 198 guys qualified for strokes gained putting statistics right now. Have enough of a sample to do that. He's 180th. 180th out of 198 people. So there's a good chance he's walking onto this course and he's the worst putter in the field most weeks. Like he could just
45 to 1.
He can just walk out there and just be like, you know what? I suck at putting more than every other guy out here right now, except for like Luke List, who is 196 out of 198. Luke List is in this field. He might be the only person in this field worse than him at putting. So yeah, that's where I'm at. It was stupid. It was a stupid bet. There were compelling arguments made. I fell for them, but the idea that he's going to putt well enough to win this just feels like folly to me.
Yeah, well, I can share in that because I drink the Kool-Aid on Wyndham Clark. Everybody's all over him because he won recently, and this is not his tournament. It in no way fits the logos of my statistics. He's 55 to 1. He's 200 plus 200 for a top 20. Greens and regulation, he's 30th. Driving accuracy, he's 166. So really straight off the tee there, Wyndham. 83rd in scrambling from the rough, not great. Bogey avoidance, 18th. Strokes gains approach. I mean, his iron game's good as 21st. Here's some juicy ones. T37 in 2022, cut in 2021, cut in 2020. So not killing it at Muirfeild. T60 at Valspar, that's Inishbrook, that's the comp, not good either. Here's the saving grace. My man Wyndham has 7 top 10 finishes this year. Isn't that nuts?
That's nuts.
That's crazy. That's like Scotty Scheffler has 11. So, I mean, he's just playing the best golf of his life. That's not debatable.
No, that is not up for debate.
And he's my favorite golfer, so I love him. And I'm going to bet him at 55 to 1. And I was glad to see him win. He's not going to get a win this week, but he's still on my card in case he does, because I'm never missing that again. I don't have a long shot. I could go down the list for some. I don't know.
Yeah,
kind of just want to.
I got a long shot.
Show. Go ahead.
Harris English.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Just bottom line, I'm not going to quit him right now. It was one bad half a round, not even the full round was terrible. I'm not willing to just sort of like all the things that I liked about him last week still hold for me. His putter sort of was the worst part of this game last week, and that's traditionally a sort of a strength. So ball striking is still good. Get the putter working a little bit, should be better. So I'm just back on Harris English at, over 100. He's 110 to 1 right now.
Nothing wrong with that. I kind of like Cooch at 75 to 1. He plays well here, and his around the green numbers are really good.
He does play well here, yeah.
Yeah, and I think he also plays well at Inishbrook. So I kind of like him, and I kind of like Kashmir Keith Mitchell. He's 130 to 1. There's nothing wrong with him. I mean, you can always do that. And Hoagie is 150 to 1, so he's really
he's
kind of struggling. Yeah, Iron God Tom Hoagie every week. But I'd probably, if I really had to pick one, I'd probably go with Cooch, even though I don't really like him. But those are good odds for a guy who a couple years ago, you couldn't buy him at less than 25 to 1. So we'll see. I'm excited for this tournament. Hopefully we get a winner. Hopefully you get a winner, and hopefully I get one as well. Maybe I can hit a nationality prop and you can hit it outright. That would be
awesome.
We shall see. Thank you everyone for listening to this week's episode of Clubhouse Picks, brought to you by Godzilla Wins. You can download and listen to Clubhouse Picks on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please be sure to download, rate, and review if you like the show. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. Nate, next week, where are we?
Oh man. Next week we're like 2 weeks away from the US Open.
That's
Next
right. But
week
what are we next
we
week?
are 2 seconds, please. The RBC Canadian Open and the return of Michael Block to competitive golf.
Oh my God. I don't even want to talk about that guy anymore. He pissed me off last week with his nonsense about if I were the best, I'd be the best golfer in the world if I could drive the ball like Rory. And then he finished 15 over and in last place at the Charles Schwab. So bye-bye, Michael Block. Fun while it lasted. Stop going on podcasts. We'll see everybody next week. Happy golfing.